to be honest, it's the brand of the book. Like, what's the title and what's the cover look like? And a lot of people just get that wrong. And
Yeah.
that is basically everything when it comes to marketing the book. Obviously, it has to be, outcome driven and solving a problem and things like that. But, most business owners won't write a book that doesn't do that. But how they present the book is the problem.
Welcome to the Head Smack Podcast, where we have candid conversations with misfits and mavericks, those not afraid to stand up and stand out, the dreamers and the doers, the ones who've stumbled, fumbled, and then soared. Here we delve into the inspiring journeys and pivotal aha moments that have shaped their worlds. And maybe through sharing their adventures, you'll get hit with a head smack that'll change your destiny.
Welcome to the Head Smack Podcast. My name is Paul Pavolny, and I'm excited today to have Chris Benetti joining me with some great ideas, some great thoughts on the things that he's doing with Smart Author Media as an expert in book marketing. Today, Chris has helped his clients collectively generate over 20 million in sales from their books and digital offers. And in 2023, Chris sold over 19,000 books for his clients. And so, Chris, it's so good to have you on, man.
Thanks for having me, Paul. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous about this call because once people start hearing how you talk, they're going to realize how bad I talk. So they're going to realize how non-Australian my accent has gotten over the years, and so I appreciate you being on, but I am nervous about what people are going to think.
Well, I listened to myself today and myself even 5 years ago, and I'm like, man, I sound way less bogan today than I used to.
Well, it's so funny. Everywhere I go, people ask me where I'm from. And so, anywhere I go in America, of course, people ask me where I'm from. And then when I go to Australia, they ask me where I'm from as well. And so it's like, man, I'm from nowhere, I guess, in particular. But it's so great talking to you, Chris, coming all the way from Perth. Honestly, I did not know that you guys had internet in Perth. So I'm glad you...
We just got it 5 years ago. So,
Yeah, congratulations, man. That's pretty awesome. Perth is the cool place in Australia that nobody really talks about. I think you guys like that, right? Being the best kept secret, where nobody really asks about Perth. And it's like, we're cool with that. We're just kind of do our own thing here.
Definitely. Nice and secluded. House prices are pretty normal. Can't complain.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, you've had quite an adventure to where you're at, where I just read your bio and some of the things you've done. And so I want to kind of hear some of your story. Of course, coming from Perth, it's a little different from coming from a huge metropolitan city, whether in Australia or whether anywhere else in the world. And so how do you get to be a person that generates $20 million in sales for clients? Like, where did you start from? What was the early life of Chris Benetti?
Yeah, sure. So for me, I think the relevant part starts out of high school, actually. So I actually did high school in Port Hedland in a mining town, and there was no specific reason besides we just wanted to be close to my auntie and uncle who lived up there and my cousins, because we were quite secluded from them, and I never really got to have a good relationship with that part of my family. So as I turned 12, 13, mum asked me what I want to do after primary school. And, I said, I want to be close to my auntie and it'd be pretty cool. And so that kind of took us down a journey of living in a mining town, going to school in a mining town, and having a lot of different life experiences by doing that. But it led me towards getting a job in the mining industry out of high school, pretty much. I was always that kid anyway who was like relentless, always a hard worker. Like I had a job from 13, and by the end of high school, I had saved 20 grand in the bank. So I was like a really hard worker. And then I started my apprenticeship at 17. And after the first year of working there, I had saved 50 grand and went and bought a house in Perth at 18 and started doing fly in, fly out. So early on, I was like, pretty much priorities are like in check. And I went on to continue working in that industry for 3 more years as an apprentice, and then ended up becoming a qualified mechanical fitter. And in the last year as a tradesman, I just found that I hated I was just like, I got so sick of the environment. Everyone doing FIFO, like everyone hated working there. Everyone was super negative. And ultimately, they were only there for one reason, and that was the money. There was zero passion, zero care, and they were just miserable. And I found myself and my life becoming a little bit conflicted, and there was a lot of things that were happening with my now wife, and we essentially just needed a way out of that kind of situation. I was working away 2 weeks at a time and home for 1 week. And it was just really, really
that's tough.
Big strain.
Yeah.
So, I ended up finding my way through just being a property investor, like getting interested in other books around property investing and becoming quite knowledgeable in that space. And then, stumbling my way towards Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and a whole slew of Robert Kiyosaki books. I think I read about 10 or 12.
Wow.
And then onto 4-Hour Work Week through that, and then 4-Hour Work Week led me to a whole range of other entrepreneurial books. And
yeah, I think for a lot of people, Rich Dad Poor Dad is kind of like a gateway drug to to a whole new world. Yeah. I think it's one of those head smack aha moments for a lot of people that just radically change their life direction.
Mm-hmm. And I think, Rich Dad Poor Dad's like the first one, but Cash Flow Quadrant like stuffed me up. I was like, I got to get out of here, like. So those two are like probably the two books that I recommend, or I would recommend as like starting points, because they are just like really good eye openers for sure. Yeah. So, as the first year as a tradesman, first and last year, I should say, I just was reading books like crazy. I read a book a week while working away in the mines. I was just like the guy who sat down, had his lunch, and would read a book at the same time and didn't talk to anyone, because like there was nothing really beneficial for me to talk about,
and they were at a different place as well, right? So the conversation was very different because they weren't on the same journey as you were at that point.
Yeah, and in fact, they would just make fun of me, They just would say like, go read your self-help books and that'll get you far in life. And
I wonder what they're thinking now.
Yeah, well, they're probably still stuck in mining and miserable. So no skin off my back, really. Yeah, and through that journey, I kind of found people like Anik Singhal and Russell Brunson, and that got me interested in affiliate marketing, email marketing, and sales funnels. And September of 2016, I ended up losing my job because I missed a flight, and I decided to go all in. I started interning for a local digital marketing agency in Perth named Your Social Voice, by Kim Barrett, who's a pretty well-known entrepreneur here in Australia. And that was just like, it was such a amazing whirlwind of experience and lessons, and I really got to learn on someone else's accord, essentially, without there being much risk to me, which was, if someone's starting out today and they're like, oh, what should I do? It's like, go work for someone for free and like be able to understand processes and how to get results for people, and that'll change your world. So I worked for them for a year and a half or so, and then I actually ended up partnering with Kim and started my own business called the Funnel Division, which was essentially a funnel design development agency that specialized in conversion rate optimization. And we kind of got some steam by working with a lot of the inner circle people from Russell Brunson's inner circle. So like Rachel Peterson, Marley Jacks, Steve Larson. I worked for ClickFunnels as well. And, Stacey Martino, a whole range of people essentially in that industry.
So you got to see behind the scenes for all the different kinds of possible things that you could even pursue yourself later on, right? Is that where that started?
Yeah, in a way. I think I was like very much in the weeds of operating that business and not working on the business and like thinking about what was possible. And I, as young business owners, my first business, and kind of didn't really have that perspective yet, and didn't really have the team to allow for me to step back as the strategic and, somewhat a doer and a salesman. And, there's a lot of roles that you kind of fill when you're early in business. So, it was a really fantastic lesson, but ultimately by 2022, I kind of got to a point where I was like, man, selling projects one time sucks, and I'm not getting paid consistently sucks. And so I actually reached out to a friend of mine and asked him to mentor me, and we pretty quickly went down the route of niching my business, and then providing one service that was outcome driven and was recurring as well. And that's where we are with Smart Author Media today. It's been 2 years now of running Smart Author Media, and we're still a niched and still just sell one service, and it is recurring. So
yeah. So what made you land on book publishing and working with books? Was it the impact they had on you? Was it just made sense? If you found yourself leaning more into that, like what made you choose that niche?
Yeah, so absolutely, books were like a massive part of my journey, and they're a tremendous value piece. And just through the years of working in digital marketing as well, like I just see them as probably one of the best and most effective lead generation assets that a business owner can have to get leads and clients for their business. So that was definitely a known fact of why I wanted to pursue that avenue. To be honest with you, it was kind of after market research and looking at a couple of different niche opportunities and going, where are the gaps, that I found that authors were just being underserviced in the marketing aspects of their books. There was a lot of people who ghost wrote books, who published books, who did bestseller campaigns or campaign-based marketing stuff where it was like one-time thing. But no one was, putting their hand up and going, I'll market your book consistently to get you book sales consistently, to get you clients consistently on the back of your books. And so that kind of service in the marketplace was just wide open for someone to come and take it.
So when it comes to an author, a first-time author or somebody that's done several books and things like that, what are some of the mistakes that they make along that journey? What are some of the things that you see them consistently failing on that they can fix, they need to fix?
Well, so from my perspective, the authors that we work with are business owners, and they have a book for their business. So it's like a lead gen asset for their business. In that respect, because that's really where I focus and can offer value. I think that people go too hard on the non-scalable and things that take time approach to market their books. And so that ultimately leaves them short, because they are doing podcast tours, they're going and speaking on stages, they're posting organically on social media, and they're doing a lot of things that take their time but aren't very leverageable. And so, to be honest with you, Paul, I think not running ads for your book is probably the thing that is holding a lot of people back from getting like tremendous results and having a dial to turn up and down to get more book sales today or less book sales. And, ultimately the numbers don't lie. Like most self-published authors sell 200 books or less in the lifetime. And like when we start running ads for our clients,
wow,
we typically see that in a month, So, I do think it's holding them back from being able to actually utilize their book to the highest capacity.
So when it comes to, for that business owner that's using it as a lead gen piece, something that they can put out there, when it comes to even writing the book, are there things that they miss that that you've noticed that if they change either content or style or whatever it is, what makes a difference between a book being able to make it? Because there's, you do a lot of magic, and we'll talk about what that is, but you've got to have something to work with. What are some mistakes that authors you see making when it comes to that?
Well, I think you'd have a good perspective on this as well. And to be honest, it's the brand of the book. Like, what's the title and what's the cover look like? And a lot of people just get that wrong. And
Yeah.
that is basically everything when it comes to marketing the book. Obviously, it has to be, outcome driven and solving a problem and things like that. But most people don't write most business owners won't write a book that doesn't do that. But how they present the book is the problem. And so it's very hard for me to market a fugly book that doesn't look like it, is actually a good book and doesn't have a good title. Like, someone hit me up recently and they had a book that was around arbitrage with Amazon FBA or something, and it had like the longest title I've ever heard, and the cover looked like crap. And I'm just like, I probably can't help you unless you change these things, right? And it, today it's quite easy to republish a book or take the book you have already, change the title and change the cover and republish it. So that's not really a big issue, but that is certainly the biggest thing that I think people do wrong from inside the book. There's only about 10% of people who buy books read books, unfortunately. So I think the hardest thing is, like, obviously getting the outside of the book right, so that people aren't judging you. You can actually make those sales. But then when it comes to the inside, having a resource page where people can opt in to get resources around the book is incredibly beneficial, so that you can build lists when you sell on platforms like Amazon and things like that. And then having an offer on the last page of the book as well, so people know how they can continue working with you, whether it's that watching a webinar or a training or something along those lines, so that you can continue a sales process, whether it's offering a strategy session or something along those lines, so that, again, you can continue the sales process. Whatever that is, you need to have an offer at the back of the book, because the most read page in the book is the contents. The second most is the last page of the book.
Wow. Yeah. And two things that you brought up. First of all is, we have that quote, and in some ways it's true. In some ways it's not true at all, is you can't judge a book by its cover. I think in 2024 you can. I think that's a phrase that I think is applicable in some circumstances, but I think when it comes to book publishing, it's actually not even true. I think when people do look at a book, they do make a decision based on, is it attractive? Does it have a great title? Does the title make sense? Does it interest? Does it create curiosity? Does it give me one of those aha moments of, oh my goodness, I need to read this book because it's actually talking about a problem that I'm facing, or it's fascinating. I'm curious. You've piqued my interest. And so I think both the title as well as the design of it speak to how much you've actually invested in the book. And if you haven't invested even to get a decent cover, and it doesn't take much to get a decent cover, that how good is the content? How good is the stuff inside of it if you don't even care about the cover? Not many people can get away with a terrible cover. You've either got to have an incredible reputation and you've done a lot of marketing in some other ways, or you've just got a name that people will buy whatever you put out there, and the cover no longer matters. I'm thinking, I saw in a movie one time that Elvis and the Colonel would just basically slap a photo of Elvis on an album cover and put his name, and he's like, that's it, that's good enough. I don't care, anything else. You just put his name on it, people are going to buy it. And so, when it comes to, the second thing you mentioned, it's something that people don't even think about when it comes to writing a book. They write the content, they write their brilliant ideas, their world-changing content, but they don't think about a call to action on a book. And so, when it comes to doing a call to action, when it comes to, taking that next step and offer, schedule a seminar, what are some things that, has worked for people that have made that decision to start adding a call to action to a book, which is such a radical idea? What are some of the things that you've seen that have worked best, and some things that have not worked?
To be honest with you, it all comes to relevance and congruency. So the book has to be congruent with the business, and the call to action has to be relevant to the book. And so what do I mean by that? So if I have a book that is talking about something completely different than what I can help with in my business, then that is not a good book for you to have a call to action to your business for. And then on the flip side, like the call to action has to reference the book and correlate what they've just gone through for them to see the value in the call to action or the offer. And so, as an example, if I had an offer around, I can even use Smart Author Media. Like if I had an offer around helping them market their books, and let's just say the book was on book marketing, then my call to action would be like, cool, now that you've learned all the strategies, do you want us to implement it quicker, faster, and easier for you so that you can start seeing results today instead of 3 months when you build it all yourself? And that call to action, I would go, cool, book in a call with me today and let's see if we can help you with that process. That would be hyper relevant because they've just read about the thing and all of the strategies and methodologies and things like that I actually use in my agency to help people sell books. But they still have to get over the hurdle of building the thing, of validating the thing, of being able to know how to market the thing consistently. And that's where, like, obviously specialists come into play. And so, like, most people who write books are specialists in some avenue, whether it be property investing or share trading or, an agency or a consultant to help distressed business owners or people who help mums start Amazon businesses, whatever it is, right? And so making an offer that is relevant to what the book's content is about and essentially helping them take the next step, whether it be expansive or quicker, faster, easier, cheaper, or whatever, then that's what the offer should kind of be revolved around.
So when it comes to somebody writing this type of book, because for some people this is the first time they've heard of something like this, it is a head smack moment for them to realize, oh my goodness, I've got a book, and it's basically that's all it is. So for some people, this has been a moment for them, and I'm grateful for that. For who is this not for, and who is it for, and who would people be surprised that it's for?
So who's this for? I would say this is for people who have a business that offer higher priced things on the back end, whether it be services, coaching or consulting, masterminds, whatever it may be. Even people who have really hyper-congruent offers that are lower priced. One of my clients is Nigel Moore, and he's got a MSP membership, and it's essentially for managed service providers, security people online, to help them grow their businesses, their practices. And he's just got a $47 a month membership. We market his book and give trials away for his membership, $7 for 14 days. And because of how hyper-congruent and expansive his membership is to the book's content, the book is like one slice of the whole thing that he teaches in the membership. We get 10% of people who download the book for free to trial the membership, essentially. And so it's like extremely impactful for us because we have a high amount of volume to come through. So I would just say, like, you have a really good offer, whether it be higher priced or like hyper congruent and lower priced, that really can be kind of condensed down into a book that can portray your methodologies, your processes, and things like that to give value, and then make people say, like, I really want some more help with that, or I really want Chris to help me with that. Or even if they don't, they've got enough value from the book's content alone. So I would say, like, primarily, like, this whole thought process around like using your book in that avenue is for those kind of people. And I would also, just say, to further that point, like, you have to have already been able to successfully sell your services and offer consistently. And I would even put a revenue number and say, unless you're above a $300,000 a year business, I probably would push you away from writing a book for this purpose, just because I personally don't think there has been enough success in your business to warrant the book in the first place. But then also, you probably don't have enough money to actually spend money on advertising to market the book effectively. So going to who it's not for, like if you're below that and you haven't like properly figured out yet how to sell your offers consistently and at scale, then I would say like probably not yet ready for a book at this point. Get to that point, and then I'd say start exploring it.
Right. And so for the people that like are thinking, okay, well, is this for me? I am making, six figures, a year through what I'm selling, what I'm doing, what I'm offering, the problems I'm solving, whatever that offer is. What are some surprising, for that person that's like, I wonder if this is for me. What are some surprising things that you've found of people that most people would imagine are succeeding at doing this, that you're got stories of success in areas that people might not realize that they come through?
Well, I actually just had one recently, and he's just like a one-man show consultant, and he started marketing with us. In the first month, we had some book buyers come through, and when we are having people come through, we are asking for like revenue numbers and if they want help with turning their business around, and he essentially consults on that. And yeah, after the second month, we actually had, at that point, we had about 60 book sales. And of the 60, we had about 85% of people who were in his revenue ranges, which was 200,000 or above. And of those people, we had about 80% of them say that they want help with their business. So Through the pipeline, he actually started just reaching out to each person. We had their phone number, their address, and all of that. He was physically mailing them a book. And he literally has closed 3 deals that are worth $5,000 a month each. So, and that was on the back of maybe $8,000 or $9,000 in advertising spend. So really, like through the pipelines, even a single consultant who has a really good recurring consultancy offer and can help people with, getting an outcome, can really have success with this model. And, I've seen it time and time again where with coaches who have strategy sessions and still, one-man shops as well. We can give their book away for free on the front end, not even charging for it. And then on the second page, just offer a strategy session. And, you'll find that there's like 20% of people who download the book will want to, talk to them further, as long as they make that offer, again, relevant to the book. Hey, you're going to learn so many different strategies around XYZ in the book. But if you want to do it faster and quicker today with me, like I'd love to offer you a strategy session and we can talk through that. And yeah, like that is just a fantastic conversion asset for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Most of those people close 50% or more of the sales of the calls that come through into sales.
What are some other areas that, you mentioned the coach, you mentioned, other businesses that you've seen succeed. What are some, are there any, because once again, there are things that people hear when it comes to marketing, when it comes to growth, when it comes to doing the next thing for their business and what they're doing. And they always come against that wall of, is this for me? Can he do it for my industry? Can he do it for what I'm serving? And you had mentioned they've got to have the offer at the end. They've got to have the big offer or something of value that they can provide for somebody. Or so when it comes to that person that's wondering, is it for me? What stage do you come in and start helping them? Is it at concept? Do they have the book? Like, what stage do you come in and say, here's what we think you should do next?
Yeah, it can be towards the later stages of editing, I would say. Once like the book has been put down on paper, for the most part, there's a manuscript there. That's when they can start engaging with me to just like get some ideas around like what marketing avenues we can look at. And then, we kind of start properly engaging once the book is actually published. In saying that, like obviously we can pre-build assets and whatnot before publish. So, if they want to start working with us like a month before publishing, we can build out their sales funnel and their ads. And then as they kind of publish the book, we can launch ads alongside that release as well. But yeah, certainly we can start engaging once like the idea is out there, and I can get a really good understanding of what the book is about. And for most people, Paul, I need to have a conversation with them to determine if it is a good fit for us to work together from not only their business avenue, like on the back end, but then what the book's concept is about. Because there's just some books that I don't think I could market quite well, and I'm upfront and honest about that. After marketing,
what are those books? What are those books?
That's a good question. So books that are not they don't solve problems. I would say, like, they're not a process-driven book where it's like, hey, this book will help you solve this problem. If they're like a broad book, like a little bit, I would say, vague, and they're still within the non-fiction realm, it's like probably not a good fit, and it's probably going to be very challenging for me to market. I had a book that was like, it had a message, but it was told through a story, and it was up to the person to determine what their own ahas were through the process. And I would say it's probably similar to like The Goal, if you've read that book. That's a fantastic book, but marketing The Goal, in my opinion, would be extremely challenging, because the content of the book is, if I was to explain it logically around like understanding the theory of constraints and what goes into that, it makes sense. But then the story inside the book is like completely left field of me explaining it logically. Like someone would pick that up and go like, what, did I get duped? Or, so, like those kind of books where it's like broad and vague is like extremely challenging, for me to have success at. And then there's certain industries as well, like we haven't really had much success with industries that talking to people who want to get better careers or jobs, and I've tried that, and it was probably because of they were marketing towards like a Gen Z demographic, which is like, I'm not really in tune. I'm a millennial, so I'm not really in tune with that demographic as much as some younger people would be. So, and I've also had some good success. Like I've probably worked in 24 different niches in the past 2 years, maybe 36. And I've had some good success in a lot of different verticals. But it always comes back down to, is it an outcome-driven book? And then do they have a back end to their book? And if those two things make sense, then most likely I can have tremendous success with the author that I work with.
That's awesome. And now with the books that don't have the outcome driven, that are vague, is that do you think people do that on purpose, or do you think that is just naivety when it comes to the author? Because there's also the fear of, if I give it all away in the book, or if I give it too much away in the book, then they won't come to my offer. I've just kind of given them everything. Could be a bad mindset, and it is. Do you think it's that, or do you think it's just naivety that they just don't know what they're doing?
I think it's different purposes. So I think the book was created for a different purpose than what we are intending to use it for. So even if someone came to me with a book like that, like they probably didn't start thinking of their book in that way until after it was kind of published. And, I think that those books are still good and valuable in their own respect, and they still tell stories, and people still get ahas from them, and they have their own takeaways. But I don't think that they've initially created it as a lead generation asset, first and foremost. And, most of those outcome-driven books are kind of created from that avenue, if that makes sense. So I think it's just, the purpose of the ideology of why they created the book in the first place. And I think a lot of those people just like didn't have that perspective in the beginning.
Right. So have you ever found a book or worked with somebody where you saw the value of the book, but it was missing the mark and you've had to have them rewrite it?
No, I'd pretty much just say I'm sorry, I can't work with you. So,
Yeah.
I try not to tell people to rewrite their book, but certainly if they come to me with a bad title and cover, I'll be like, this needs some work before I can help.
Yeah. Well, and most people, when they write a book, it's kind of their little baby, and they offer it up to you, and say, "Hey, here's my, promote my baby." And so getting feedback for some people is a little tough, especially if you say, tell them it's not it's not a good enough book. It's not gonna work. And so, once you've got that book, it's got a good, it's an outcome-based book. It's, that you're ready to move forward. What's kind of the next step? You've read the book, you've seen that it is something that you can work with. What's the next step in working with you?
Yeah, so there's two avenues. Ultimately, they have a book funnel built out already. Some people do, some people don't. If they do, then cool. We can kind of do QA on the book funnel, like test it, make sure that it's up to scratch to run ads to. Once that's done, it's all integrated, payment processing for working, all of that. Once that's done, we can start setting up some ads. All of this is about a 2-week process, and then we can launch. As we go through that process, we have a month period where we test and validate advertising. And from my perspective, I know what works to an extent for selling books. But again, every client that I have pretty much is in a different industry. So it's like I don't know yet what works for that specific industry. And some clients, I've got a client now that's she's got a book on retirement, and her book, the graphical creatives that we usually run for other clients didn't work at all because her demographic is older. So we found that using a photo of someone just holding a book worked tremendously well, and we're able to get heaps of sales from that. So I didn't know that until I found that process though. So,
right.
Through the testing and validation period, we find types of creatives that work for the client, and then we find different audiences that work for the client. And then we also will potentially test some different copy for the ads as well. We also might find that the sales page for the book underperforms, it underconverts. And we kind of have some baseline metrics. We want to see it convert at least 5%, if not up to the 10% range on average. And if it's under that, I'll review using a platform called Microsoft Clarity, which is like a heat mapping tool like Hotjar. And I'll basically go and do some conversion rate optimization on the sales page. Like, where are people scrolling? What are they clicking on? Where are they getting stuck? And so on. And I'll basically optimize that page just to figure out a better structure so that we can get more conversions, and then we'll continue testing. But essentially the first month is just like committed to doing all of that kind of stuff. Once we have found things that work and winners that are potentially ready for scale, then we kind of can look at month 2 onwards. What are our goals? What are the book sales numbers that we want to achieve? The first month will tell us what our baseline is, how much it's going to cost us to get a book sold in the first place. The first month will tell us what the funnel revenue might be on an average order value basis, so that we can determine, cool, this is roughly the net cost that we're going to pay to get someone to buy the book. So as an example, if someone buys we spend $30 to get someone to buy the book, and then they spend $20 in the funnel, cool, it's only going to cost us net $10 to get someone to buy the book. And so that using those numbers, we can determine, cool, based on your budgets and what you're comfortable with, what amount of book sales do we want to get, through that process based on your budgets. And essentially then I'll, through the process, I'll make recommendations to continue scaling up the campaign. Now, if someone doesn't have a book funnel yet, then the first month isn't testing and validation. It's let's set up a book funnel. So through that process, I ask them a series of questions around their book, just like content around their book. I'll give that to my copywriter along with the book. We'll both read the book and make sure that we understand it. We'll write the sales copy for the book sales page. Then I'll hand that to my designer. He will design the sales page. Then I'll hand that to my funnel builder. He'll build the sales page. And then essentially we'll, in the first 30 days, work towards having a completed book funnel that is all approved and is completely tested and is working. And in that process, again, we'll also set up the ads and whatnot as well. So, there's a few
So
extra weeks
within the
of setup
first
required.
Sorry. So within the first 30 days, with all the research, with all the testing that you're doing, that gives an incredible amount of information. Have you ever found that you had to go back and rethink the title or rethink the offer at the end of the book? Because many of these books are probably print on demand, I'm guessing, so there's not a whole lot of inventory. Have you found, is that part of your process to give some recommendations of your title is not really resonating or your offer is not really converting? Is that part of what you do as well?
We definitely look at the offer perspective. I haven't really had to tell many of my clients to like revise their title. And, I kind of do the preemptiveness of saying no to the client before they start working with me if that isn't in check initially.
Yeah.
But I'm only human as well. I've had clients that I've started working with and we just haven't had success marketing their books. And it only happens to less than 5% of the clients we work with, but it does happen. And, sometimes it's just like sorry, I actually can't successfully market this. But for the most part, like I've got stronger filters over time now because of that. So I'm just like much more, I'm harder on who I take on as a client today.
Right. Now, okay, so that's month one. You shared a little bit about month two. How long is this entire process?
Well, I like to do it long term if I can.
Okay. Yeah.
Pretty much I, look at it at least a 3-month commitment to work with us. And that just gives us time to see things through. Like most of my clients will hit profit in month 2, if not month 3. And if they have a lower ticket thing like Nigel, the example I gave before, we started seeing profit in month 6. But he had, essentially the monthly recurring revenue to support that kind of venture. But yeah, certainly after month 2, if it's like a direct offer to book in a strategy call with the team and stuff like that after the book has been purchased or given away, then the ROI should come pretty quick, essentially.
Yeah. And so, with this, you've been doing this for a while now. Have there been things that have changed along the way, that have impacted things along the way? Has AI impacted what you're doing? What have been some of the other key moments that might have changed from when you entered into this space to where you are now, that have impacted what you're doing?
Yeah. So I've actually got a really good one, and that is I had to create a machine around creative development for the ads. So early days, I basically had a few creatives, or was like quite reliant on the client to provide creatives for the ads. So these are the ad images or videos that we use to run, and that just slowed our processes down so much. Or I was finding myself getting to the end of the week, and on Sunday, this is before I had a graphic designer on the team, I was like making the creatives on Sunday for the clients and then putting them into the ads to launch on Monday. And so like that became a massive hindrance on our production workflow and what we were able to test, because my mentors always hounded me to have a testing methodology that we do tests every week on Monday. We turn off things that are not winning, and we turn on new things to test and find new winners. And through the week, we'll continue to do that. So we've essentially got a cadence to test creatives, and we do maybe 3 to 10 different creatives, depending on the account and how much it's spending every single week. So through that process, like I basically had to find a way to have creative production be essentially unlimited, and allow us to have that amount of creatives being produced at all times and ready to go and ready to test. So what I did was started taking screenshots of ads that I saw in my newsfeed, and I now have like a Slack channel where it's just called Ad Ideas, and we essentially grab the copy from the ad and then the screenshot of the ad showing all the reactions and things like that. And then we'll basically base our templates off of ads that we've seen other people do that have good, engagements and have good success rates. And like I've literally got hundreds now. So one of my recurring tasks for my graphic designer every week is create like 3 to 5 templates. And so he creates a template, and then my ads manager will go ahead and task out new creatives for our clients based on the templates that have been created. So we have this big template folder that's got like 100 different templates in there now. And my graphic designer will just go pick and choose a few that he wants to run, and we'll base the copy for the ad image based on the ad copy or the landing page copy. And we just have a really tremendous process built around that now.
That's amazing. It's so funny that you use the term the early days because it's only been a few years, but I think things are changing so radically in the space in online marketing and the world of just advertising and branding and all of those things, and even in publishing. Publishing is radically changing. And consistently. And so saying early days is, for some people, they're like, yeah, back in, the old days, but it's like, no, it's like 2022 or, pre-COVID, the early days. And so it's amazing how you've been able to evolve your business to, serve your clients better, to, augment the stuff that you're already doing, make it better, make it fresher, make it more relevant, make it more effective, make it more impactful. And so that's amazing. What are some other things that that you help clients with, and how do they get a hold of you?
So primarily I'm like focused on the sell books and get clients avenue. So we don't really do anything else besides that. So I'm definitely the guy. If you have a book you want to market that is a lead gen asset for your business, and you want to get clients from those book sales, then hit me up. I can help. Involved in that is, what we've spoken about today, like building sales funnels for the book, running ads for the book and so on, and doing follow-up to get clients booked on sales calendars. But essentially that's like kind of the overarching outcome that we provide for our clients. The best place to check me out is smartauthormedia.com. And there's a green button on that website to book in a consulting session with me. It's a free 30-minute session that we can go through, and usually I charge $2,000 an hour for consulting. So you can put the value on that as you wish, but we can basically just talk through everything that you're doing currently with your book marketing, or if you're not doing anything, we can put some plan and steps into place so that you can go out and do that. And if you want our help to implement that, there'll be an option there as well. And alternatively, like social media, Chris Benetti, you'll probably find me. I'm probably the only Chris Benetti with a blue, verified check. So add me as a friend, hit me up as on Messenger or whatever, and I'd love to chat and see how I can help.
Thanks, Chris. You've been very clear in who this is for, and I appreciate that because you're not looking just for the authors. You've got some very clear criteria of who you can help and how you can help them. And so I appreciate that. And so I'll have those links in the show notes as well. Be sure to reach out to Chris if you need to take that next step with what you're doing with your book. And he can certainly help you to reach those goals that you have as well. Chris, I appreciate you being on, man. This has been awesome. So many good things that have been shared that I think can impact somebody in a positive way, especially somebody that is either interested in writing a book or has written a book and they want to take the book to the next level and take their business to the next level. So I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure to come on the show. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us on the Head Smack podcast. We've shared some candid stories and life-changing ideas. And now it's your time to act. First, take bold action on just one idea and see how your life can radically change. Secondly, whatever platform you're listening to this on, please rate it, share it, and leave a comment. Let us know where this episode impacted you. I appreciate you giving me your time, and don't forget to join us for our next Misfit conversation.